and I hear something fall from the sky. I turn around. The only thing I see is a big light falling from the sky, and moments after, I feel a big impact in a bang, sort of like big impact fall.
Ora me que canto Paris le gajenge ala chorsi. Ora tosi. Ay! Profesor! Calmungarela me cancila el eso.
Good luck.
What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video, another quick take. I got my main man, my partner, my brother here.
And if you don't know, now you know. The Prince Fresh Air, thanks for having me again.
My man. So basically, we were just having a phone conversation, and I just figured, why not? Let's just make it into a quick take. So we've got an article courtesy of news4sanantonio.com, which says Las Vegas workers claimed UFO sighting. Police body cam captures mysterious flash. The article goes on to say that a 911 call was made by a group of workers in Las Vegas who claimed they saw a UFO right before their eyes. A body cam video from Las Vegas police captured a bright and blue and green streak from across the sky. The American Meteor Society says people in Nevada, Utah, and Eastern California reported seeing the flash. About 40 minutes after the flash, that's when a man called 911 saying he and his family saw something fall from the sky and that there were two beings. It was reportedly between 8 and 10 feet tall and with large eyes in the family's backyard. Officers responded and went to the backyard but didn't find anything. Police say they have now closed the case. So basically, when I saw this video on YouTube a few nights ago, I was a bit skeptical because I didn't like the way that the video was kind of laid out. And just last night, or not last night, just a few minutes ago, I saw a video on TikTok, which was an extended version of what happened in the backyard. And, me and my man Percy, we just had a little, back and forth because I'm more on the side of I believe the fact that they saw the UFO, whereas he didn't. So, bro, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Man, first of all, let me say this, and I'm probably speaking for everybody. It's a good conversation. It's nice not having to talk about black people getting killed by police and all this stuff. So let's shout out to that, right? Now we're gonna have a little fun with this. Let me start off by saying this. I think we both agree on the fact that there are other life forms out there that we don't know about. Now, some people may disagree, some people may agree, but I do think, when we watch all these movies, Doctor Strange and the multiverse and all that stuff, I do think there's other planets out there, other life forms we haven't met before that out there have more technology or whatever the case may be. Here's the thing with this video. Yeah. So at first, I was going to write it off. I thought it was nonsense. Now, we always hear about someone seeing a UFO sighting and all this stuff. I think even the government has said a couple things about spotting unidentified objects flying in the air. But with this video, here's my only thing, right? And I'm not saying they're liars. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they did see this thing, right? But I think if I saw, and I use this analogy with Dimitri, Shaq is a big dude. I think Shaq is what? 7'2", 300 something pounds. Shaq is a hard 7+, yeah. And Shaq is a hard man to miss. I mean, you're gonna have a hard time not seeing this man, right? So if I was to see something 8 to 10 feet tall, about the same size as the Incredible Hulk, for instance, I don't know. I just now don't get me wrong. I did see something in the window, right? And I saw it move as soon as the guy entered the frame. I just don't know if me and my buddies have guns and I see something I don't recognize in the backyard. I think I'd get a little more better video footage or just photos of it. And even if that was the case, because I know, Dimitri, you say you support that fact that they did see something, you saw something. I saw something too. My thing is, there's a lot of.
I had to tell you where it was at. So I saw something. I was trying to get you to see exactly, where, what they saw. Because in the very beginning, in the original video, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know what to look at in order to see it. If you don't know what to look for, then you're never going to see it, which is why I was skeptical, because I said I didn't see anything. Because the kid was like, oh, it was hard to see, but it's there. I didn't know what to look for. But it wasn't until I saw the extended version and then I saw the truck a lot more clearly, and then I saw as they walked up to the truck is when the alien showed itself, the extraterrestrial showed itself. And what I was saying to you over the phone is that, you know, if I were to have a close encounter with an extraterrestrial, it would probably go exactly like that. You know, you say Shaq, but I'm like, extraterrestrials are ethereal beings. We don't know, you know, what they're made out of, what their body composition is. Even if he did describe them as 10 feet tall, it's because that was when he first encountered them. So that was when they first came across them, and then the aliens came across them as well. But then the second time, the aliens were hiding from them. All right, because they're non-threatening. Like I said earlier, it's a case of they're more afraid of you than you are of it, because they don't know anything about us and we don't know anything about them. So when you have an encounter like that, both sides are probably scared because they don't know what's going to happen. That's why, you know, the dad and then the other kid with the blue shirt, they walked in with guns because they don't know what could potentially happen. This could be a potentially threatening situation. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I just, you know, for me, I watch a lot of scientific stuff. I know the Wired on YouTube, they do a series where professional astronauts, scientists, and all these stuff, people answer questions that people have. And I remember this one scientist was talking about life on Earth versus in space and the difference. And I'm using just based off what he said. I think regardless of what they made of and stuff, I think when you enter the Earth atmosphere, you're still going to be subjected to the same things we are: gravity, gravitational mass, pull, and all that stuff. So I think for me, the only reason why I question it is, one, if something that big and blue, because I think it was a blue or grayish, greenish light that they saw. So it was something that was not small. So for me, if I saw something like that land or whatever, my first objective would try to get some footage, because that's not we're not talking about little drones that people buy to, you know, capture footage. We're talking about something huge that people picked up on camera easily. My thing is just there's just a lot of missing stuff with this. Like, what happened to the spacecraft?
Like, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know where it went. But, you know, just to respond again to what you said about, you know, if you enter the Earth's atmosphere, you're going to be subjected to gravity and all those other types of stuff. That's assuming if they're using aircraft that is similar to ours. But if they're using something that is not physically tangible, then it's not going to be subjected to that. Because remember, you said earlier that, you know, if UFOs are really around, then why doesn't the government pick up on them? And I said, because, you know, government or like military radars and stuff, they're not designed to pick up extraterrestrial aircraft. They're not designed for that. They're designed to pick up, you know, planes and drones and helicopters and fighter jets and regular planes and so on and so forth. They're not designed to pick, because how are they gonna create something to detect things that they know nothing about? You get what I'm saying? So when these things are occurring, they're occurring because these aliens are flying under the radar. And the assumption is that they're using, you know, technology not of this world. So we don't know anything. That's why.
I mean, here's my thing. I think, you know, if something's going to enter our atmosphere, right? And I mean, scientists have tried to find other ways to go about it in a different way, but you're going to burn up on entry, the aircraft or whatever you're flying in.
If you're flying in metal, if you're flying in something that is flammable, that can be subject to those, you know what I'm saying, conditions of entering Earth's atmosphere, especially at a high speed. But we don't know how they come and go from the Earth. We don't know how they're transporting around. We have no idea.
And actually, let me mention another thing too. Now we're talking about this, life forms, right? Because people for the longest have thought we can live on Mars, and it finally came out. Scientists said, I think it's the longest a human can live on Mars is 4 years due to the climate, the atmosphere, and not being enough resources that we have on Earth and Mars, right? So my thing is, if an extraterrestrial being comes to Earth, I don't like I don't know if they could breathe the same air we can. I don't know if they can survive in the same atmosphere, because our air is filthy. Our air has different pollution, just like Mars has a different atmosphere as us. So as Venus, Jupiter, and all that stuff. The planets we do know about. Like I said, there are planets out there we haven't touched on. Scientists will even agree there's life forms out there that we haven't discovered yet. For me, and I'm not trying to write them off. I it, I it is a part of me saying that the government knows stuff that we don't know. Absolutely. If they knew everything, no, they'd tell us, but they don't. I mean, we all know how classified go. But I don't. Me in 2023, I don't think we've made it this far, and a bunch of people in Las Vegas are the first ones to find an actual 10-foot terrestrial being flying in the air, landing in their backyard, and then magically disappear. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I think
You're
there's
just skeptical.
so many, yeah.
But my counter to that is how would you expect your encounter with the third kind go? Like, how would you expect? Like, because to me, putting myself in their shoes, I would expect it to go something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's exactly how I think me encountering, a UFO aliens would go. So how would you think, something like that will play out happening to you?
I would say, first of all, I'm not. Let's be clear. I think unless you're in that situation, you never know. So I can't 100% say certain say I'm gonna get the camera out and approach a thing.
No, I'm not
say
saying like
that,
what
right?
you would do, but like how do you think these aliens would look? How do you think that they would act if
I
you
don't
were in your backyard and then you walked out? All right, so let's say if the same thing happened. So, some sort of object fell into your backyard, you hear a loud metallic noise, you go out to investigate. What do you think would happen? What do you think you would see? How do you think it would play out?
First of all, and then here's another thing. They're the only like it looked like based off the other footage that they have on the street. There's other houses there, so if something that big landed, I'm sure there would have been other people outside to. People tend to mind their business, but if there's something they don't recognize flying in the air, landing, I think more people
You'd
would have
be
been out there.
surprised. You'd be surprised. A lot of times, while stuff be going on, some people don't come outside. You know what I'm saying? Especially if they look outside and it's not affecting them. If it's not in their backyard, they're not gonna get involved. And especially that loud noise that came up on the Ring camera. If let's say you hear, all right, like let's say if like the trash man is outside, there's like loud, metal noises and stuff like that. But most people are not going to really think, oh, it's an alien outside. So people will hear something. If it's not a lingering noise and it only lasted for about 2 seconds, most people are not going to go out and investigate. These people, because they heard it happened in their backyard, they went to go investigate.
There's two things. Being from New York, people tend to mind their business. I know I do. But if there's something I don't recognize, and I will peek out the window, and most New Yorkers will. I mean, a lot of times they will whip up the camera or they'll just continue minding their business. But generally, I think if it's late at night and you hear a loud bang or whatever, I think people are gonna, because we're talking about Las Vegas. Now, New York is a whole nother place where many people is like, it's not bothering me. I ain't paying attention. Now we're talking about people with guns and all this stuff. So they're not exactly scared to use those things, which is another reason I'm like, all right, you might see something strange in your backyard. Y'all all have weapons. You all have guns.
That might not even work because you're not shooting. Guns are designed to hurt human beings, flesh and blood. Beings that again are flesh and blood. They're not designed to attack beings who are not of this world. So that's what I'm saying, because we have to change, you have to change the way you look about the situation, because it's assuming that these are aliens that are tangible. They might be made of light. They might be light beings. We don't know, because the way that alien showed up in that car, it like lit up or faded in and appeared. Just like how any cornered animal would activate, that's what it did. The closer that they got is when it chose to appear. And when you've seen something that's an alien that you've never seen before in your life, and then you make eye contact with it, you're going to be freaked out too, especially if those eye holes expand. Yeah, but you have to really put yourself in their shoes. When this kid said, yo, he felt what could be compared to sleep paralysis when he first made contact with that alien, I would be shook too. Because you don't know what extra, sensory abilities that these beings have. You don't know what they got. So, of course, you're going to tread, carefully, especially, when you get in these situations, when they talk about fight or flight, it's real. So, yeah, just because you got a gun in your hand doesn't mean that you're probably going to use it when you're, overtaken by fight or flight, when you're overtaken by fear of the unknown. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, they had guns, but they were shook. Or sometimes, like, let's say when you have like, let's say people who find snakes in their freaking, house or some shit like that, they back off. And then they'll close off the area just like they did, because they knew where they were at. They went in the backyard, and then they closed, the gate with the assumption that, I guess, it would probably keep them in there. So I would probably, I'm not saying that I would do exactly what they do, but I would see that same situation playing out just like them. And if you're dealing with aliens, you might not see them leave. So when you're saying like, oh, so what happened to them? We don't know. They probably just freaking teleported, or they got cloaking devices. You know what I'm saying? They are not of this world. So thus they have capabilities that we do not, that we can't fathom because we don't know about it. It's unknown.
No, you're 100% right. But I think, Superman was a whole, I mean, that's a comic, but I don't think there's people out there who can come to Earth and start flying and shoot laser beams. And I think that the reason why I mentioned the gravitational pull and gravity is, I think when you come into this Earth, I mean, even mammals, animals that swim in the ocean, they are still, impacted by gravity. So anything that comes into this Earth is going to be impacted by. And again, we're also talking about people. We don't know what these people look like or how they operate. So how is it feasible for us to say or think that they'd be able to breathe the same toxins that we do, breathe in the same way we breathe in oxygen? I don't, and that's the key part. And my most important thing, which I think a lot of people in the comments were saying about it, it's like, yo, what happened? Like you saw a big blue light land in your backyard. Did it just turn off the light and just fly away before the cops came? Because the cops were saying like they saw no evidence. And I know you're saying that there's, they don't know what to look for. And you could be right. But I think people tend to leave marks. I mean, look at all the murders and stuff people create. Now we're talking about other people, but I mean, I think there's going to be certain type of evidence that regardless you leave behind, whether it's a trail, footprints,
Right, but
marks,
remember
whatever.
I said earlier that even if there were, we don't have technology, at least that I'm aware of, that can pick up on any evidence that extraterrestrials would leave behind. So when I explained to you earlier that in Men in Black, after the Edgar suit alien freaking, crashed, and then he took his UFO, when, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, when they got there, Tommy Lee Jones had equipment that was designed or freaking built to pick up on the spectral trail that the Edgar suit alien left behind. So even if the police got there and they said that they found nothing, of course they found nothing because they don't have equipment that's designed to find, to track down extraterrestrials. We don't have anything, not the average human being, at least. And if Men in Black do exist, they're the ones who are gonna know exactly what happened, what was there, and what took place. But cops and this family that was there, they're not going to be able to do that. No.
But something that big would leave something behind. Imagine.
Well, we don't know if it was big though. We don't even know if it was big. We don't know if it was big.
Based off that picture I saw, that wasn't a small little thing flying. And if something is 10 foot, they're not going to be flying in no, a smart car size thing. I mean, it's just
probably something way smaller than that. That's why I asked you earlier. I was like, if you go on YouTube right now and then you look up UFO footage, we always see the same thing. We don't see these large, metal, big spaceships or none of that. Nah, we always see very small orbs of light that multiply, that kind of float around, and then they literally disappear almost as fast as they appeared. Or let's say there was a UFO, this was like 2011, and there was a UFO that appeared like just over like Jerusalem or some shit. Like very small orb of light, the same types of lights that you've seen in every other UFO footage over the last decade plus. And no noise, no nothing. It just hovered there for a little while, and then a big flash of light, and then it flew up into the sky. Never saw it again.
But this stuff, and this is actually a fun time. I'm actually enjoying myself. Let me say that. But you know what? This reminds me of all the urban legends and stuff about Bigfoot. This many people say I saw sightings of Bigfoot, but we have never in the history of this earth been able to find any trace of evidence. I remember I told you about Slender Man that happened. When I think we was kids when this happened. but the whole urban legend of a tall, I think Slender Man was supposed to be like 8-something plus feet tall, a thin creature with a black suit on, Slender Man. People could Google him. But there was people who made videos of him, and then it turned out it was just a group of buddies. One of the buddies was dressing up as this creature and starting to plot. Now, I don't know. Like I said, I do think, first of all, this thing's in the ocean we don't even know about. We haven't even been able to reach the depths of the ocean to know what is living down there. So when we watch like the Meg and Transformers and all that stuff now, do I think there's robots the size of Optimus Prime? I don't know. But I think there are a lot of unanswered questions we haven't explored. So I'm not completely opposed to the idea of extraterrestrials.
Well, we can't. That's what I'm saying. Given that we both agree that there are, otherworldly beings that do exist on Earth and beyond, that we can't be all that skeptical about what happened to this family, And again, if you were in their shoes, or if I was in their shoes and I lived to tell the story, I would assume that the story would be just as weird as theirs. Because when you're talking about these things, of course, it's not really going to add up. And then when you look at the video, it would probably happen just like that.
The thing, and the reason why so many of us are skeptical is, when we hear about these type of stories, there's usually a lack of real evidence. And I mean, we live in a society based on evidence. So let's say, I saw something. I got no, there's no evidence. You can't find a trace of it. It's hard to believe, because especially we have people on this earth who are still living, who flew and walked on Mars. We have people who landed on the moon. Oh, well, not Mars, but we have people who walked on the moon, and we have technology well beyond that's available to us that the government has. Let's be clear. NASA and all these other people behind the scenes we don't really know about, they have access to technology we don't even know about. We just get it when they perfect it and they're ready for the public to know. So let me put that out there. But I just, it's like, I don't know how much I believe of a family in Texas, in Las Vegas, who have found a life form that size by themselves, that NASA, people who have way more experience with the I'm forgetting with space and other planets and gathering information from other planets, they find it first before them. Now, I'm not saying I don't know.
Who found what first before them?
No, I'm saying that I don't believe that this family found a 10-foot tall being first before our government has.
The government, first of all, the government has been come in contact with extraterrestrials for a long ass time now. Okay, I would say even probably as early as somewhere in, let's say, between the 17 and the early 1900s, I believe, is when the government has first made contact with extraterrestrials. That is a fact. All right, so there's no assumption that these people were the first ones that that they found them first. Absolutely not. No, it's just I would say they were the first ones that came in contact with them on camera and documented everything in that moment beyond just seeing something in the sky, and how everything all lined up, from the body cam footage of a police officer who wasn't even there. He wasn't even there, to then the ring a camera of either their house or somebody else's house that captured that loud metallic sound, to then everything that they came across in their backyard. Everything checks out, because I was more skeptical than you were. I was like, nah, I was like, yo, this is fake. Cause I'm like, yo, I didn't see anything. I'm like, yeah, because my thing was, I was like, they probably saw the UFO, freaking footage. I mean, they probably saw the thing in the sky, probably heard the noise, and then called the cops, told them that it was in their backyard, but it really wasn't. But then to find out that, one, their whole backyard was pretty much cloaked in a green freaking light. Then their body language, the fact that they had guns, because you couldn't even see that, visible in the original video. And maybe that's probably why they didn't want to put it out there, is because they had guns. Whether they're licensed or not is a different story. But then they're walking up on the car, and then that's when they see the UFO appears, and then their first instinct is to run. Why? Is because they were in fight or flight. They were scared because they're coming in contact with something that could probably kill them in an instant. They don't know.
Well, and that's the part because I feel, and I don't know, they haven't done a follow up on this, but I think if this was a serious thing, I think the FBI, CIA, all these real major governmental organizations would have investigated this by now because there's no way it's populating this much and they just sitting around doing nothing. And I know you mentioned a point where if they start taking down the videos, people are going to be like, oh wait, is there some truth to it? But I think we're past.
But it's not a secret anymore. But the fact that there have been that the government has had direct contact with UFOs and they put this out there is no secret. So for them to take down the video and all of that, I feel like that would be weird because it's not a secret. Most people with common sense know that there are aliens out there. I think they would take it down if, let's say, like they got attacked, by the UFO, by the alien, and you see everything. I think something like that would be, a different thing. Why? Because I feel like the general public is not ready to know exactly what's out there, to know what those particular ETs are capable of. Because the average person would not know what to do with that information. And the average person is going to do two things. They're going to panic or make everything worse. One or the other. And I quote Agent K from Men in Black, where he says, the only way people can go on with their happy lives is if they do not know about it. So most people, the average person, are better off with that ignorance. As they say, ignorance is bliss. Because then people are going to get scared. People are going to panic. People are going to get angry. And then they're going to demand more information about things that they were better off not knowing in the first place. So that's the only situation where I feel like the government would really intervene, is if super sensitive information that people are not ready for were to come out. So if they were to capture, that, extraterrestrial being threatening or doing something wild, I don't think that would have been on YouTube for that long if it were to even make it onto YouTube, if it were to even get through the upload process. And even if it did, it probably would only be on the internet for, a couple of hours before it got taken down. But we didn't really see all that much anyway. So all we really saw was like the silhouette of what appears to be an extraterrestrial. And the cameras don't really cover, don't even really, convey what they actually saw face to face, especially the dad that was in the front that saw. Like I said to you over the phone, like, yeah, the eyes, the human eyes have like a quality and a definition that cameras don't have. It's like, yeah, cameras are good, but they're not as, they're not going to really get what we actually see. So I can only imagine what they actually saw, because what they saw had to have been wild enough for them to be like, yeah, okay, we're not going to get any closer to whatever this thing is, because as we got closer is when it decided to show itself. And then he said that his eyes got wider, meaning we don't know what's going to happen next if we get a little bit closer. So let's just move back, because I don't think any of those people were ready to die, even though they had guns.
I don't know. This is an interesting topic, and I think the biggest thing too, first of all, at night, eyes can tend to play tricks on us too. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I just, for me, I think the government, if they were, first of all, the government's quick to fact check people as soon as you post them on Twitter, right? So I think if the government really was concerned about this, they would have, because these people aren't famous, actors or celebrities. I mean, they could easily scrub this from the internet if they really wanted to. And I think people don't really care that much that they go searching for answers if this video disappeared, right? And I think the government, like I said, when I was watching Transformers, I think it was Revenge of the Fallen, whatever, and there was a whole thing going on where a sector of the government was hiding Megatron from the Earth. Apparently, they found them 100 years ago and didn't tell nobody. I think certain things like that are true, where the government has found things that we don't know about and is not ready to release that information. But I do think, in a case like this, I think the government would have told us if aliens exist. Why? Because that could be a threat to us. Imagine, a 10-foot alien on this planet. We don't know what his capabilities is. We don't know what kind of skills or whatever it has. It could easily wipe out an entire, city if it really wants to. We don't know. And I think that's why, for me, That's why I'm skeptical, because I haven't heard a follow-up about what happened to this creature. I didn't hear that it flew out of the sky. It just magically disappeared after the video stopped. So
But don't you think that these things have an ability to just disappear? They do. They do. They're not just, you're not going to see them just, walk down the street or run away. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like, what else do you expect from aliens? Stuff like this. This is what I would come to expect from somebody's, story about their close encounter with aliens. So we have to kind of take the realism out, because what we consider to be realistic is our understanding of life, which is only based on human beings and animals. And like you said, there are aspects of this earth that we haven't even tapped into yet, like just the deep ocean, space. There are so many things that we don't know about. So when we do get how should I say, exposed to this type of information, we can't cast our short-sighted perceptions of what is real and what's not real. Because if that was me and I uploaded that video, and everybody would be saying the same thing about me. Everybody would be like, oh, this is crazy. But if I called you and I told you, bruh, I seen something that was 8 to 10 feet tall, and then you saw the ring footage, and you saw, the body cam footage of a cop that wasn't even at my house when the thing landed, wouldn't you believe me? Because I wouldn't tell you the shit if I didn't actually see it for myself. And that's why I'm like, yo, if I was telling people this, everybody would say that I'm bugging out, and I must have been seeing things. But in reality, nah, everything checks out. Everything checks out about what they're saying, unless somebody edited the video. But when I cross-reference or cross-examine the original YouTube video to the TikTok ones, and once I knew what to look out for, I see why he only put that small section in there, because that's when the alien popped up. It's just hard to see on camera, but in real life, if I was there, I would have saw it too. Because now I see it. Because once we're done with this, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm looking at through a screen share.
I think it's a tough one. For me, I look at it, based off the whole scenario. Like I said, this a lot of glaring problems that I'm seeing with this whole thing, which is why I'm really questioning. Because, like I said, even if these things have different body mass and all this stuff from us, gravity still plays a big part in our life, which is why we all,
when your flesh, when your flesh in blood, and you're a mammal and you're subject to the laws of gravity, right? But what can defy gravity, on this earth? Birds, planes, certain sorts of technology. Now factor that in with beings that are not of this earth, and where they're from, most likely they're not subject to the same laws of gravity that we are. And let's say if they are, they're more advanced than we are, to the point where they don't abide by laws of gravity anymore. This is what I'm saying. So I would say, so that's why the conversation has to change, because we're not talking about us, we're talking about them.
But you know what? And this is why I kind of form my opinion too. It's like, when on my free time, sometimes I like to just look at other planets and what scientists have discovered and whatever the case may be, which is why they know certain planets we can't live off. Like, I think one of the planets is either Uranus or Jupiter, one of those. But if we were to live on that planet, we would die from the gravitational force, because there's so much force going on there, we couldn't live there. Whereas here, we have made it, the gravitational force here has made us, has allowed us to live. But if we was to leave this Earth and go to another planet, we would die instantly.
Yeah, because biologically, we are not designed to exist on those planets.
Right.
You know how, like, let's say, the longer, how should I say, a certain species of being exists in a certain area, they adapt to it over time. And then biologically, they make changes that make adjustments to their environment. It's like certain animals, they've adapted and they've evolved to exist in different, harsher areas, climates, temperatures, all those different things. We can't exist, again, like I said, on Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune, and all those, different places. But other beings possibly can.
I don't know. I look at it from that perspective, and that's why I brought it up. Because if we can't live on those planets, right? How do I know? I don't know what. First of all, I wanted to, because I don't believe other terrestrial beings, or these green ET looking things with round heads and big black eyes. I
Why?
don't
Because
think they
that's what
look
you
like
see in the
that.
movies.
Well, yeah. I think that's what we envision as aliens, but I don't think aliens look like that. Which
But you want to know. But you want to know. You want to know the thing with movies, and I say this all the time. Like these people who they rub shoulders with the upper echelon of society and stuff like that. They can't come out and tell you straight up exactly what they know, but they're always going to put it in the media. And then I've always said like movies like Independence Day and Get Out or Nope, for example. These are UFO alien movies and stuff like that. They put these films out just to see how the general public is going to react. And most people, they only view it as entertainment, but they don't look at it as, yo, this is possibly real. It comes from somewhere. You feel what I'm saying? Art imitates life, meaning it had to have come from somewhere. And then the way that aliens have been depicted, it's almost kind of, very similar. And I said Grand Theft Auto 5 as an example. The UFOs in the damn game, you can't see them from far away. You can only see them when you get up close. But the moment you move back, you can't see them anymore. And then that same loud metallic sound when that UFO landed or whatever it is that happened to it, it's the same type of sound you hear in the Fort Zancudo UFO in GTA 5. Same metallic type of sound. Facts. So
you know
just because there's a similarity does not mean that it's not real. Because if you know that these things are out there, put yourself in their shoes. If you said the same exact story that they had, people would say that you're crazy. But if you really put yourself in their shoes, like, okay, if I were to run into aliens, how would that play out? I see them, they're 8 to 10 feet tall. Makes sense. I made eye contact with them. I felt a paralysis come over my body as to where I felt like I couldn't move. When I got close to where it was hiding at, the more that we got closer, it felt threatened and it made itself more clear and it expanded its eyes. You see what I'm saying? Then our whole entire backyard took on a color, which is the same color of the UFO that landed. Makes sense to me. And then when it moved, it didn't make the same types of, movements or bodily movements or whatever that human beings, do. They're ethereal. Like, let me Google the definition of ethereal because I know what it means. I know how to use it, but let me just get the actual definition of ethereal. It says extremely delicate and light in a way that seems too perfect for this world. Facts. So I'm saying, like, we don't know what their bodily composition is made out of, but I never expected to encounter an alien and for it to be as, and I can't find the adjective, but for it to be like similar to me. Nah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that they have different defense mechanisms and all of that type of stuff. So the closer you get to it, the more it appears. And then the fact that its eyes were widening is a how should I say, a sign of intimidation. Because those people, they felt intimidated by that. And especially if they know it's 8 to 10 feet, they don't want no smoke with that. Them bullets of that gun will probably go straight through them. Probably wouldn't work.
Because here's the thing, and reading the comments, a lot of people feel the same way. It's like, there's certain things missing from this. It's like, I think about it in the court of law, right? If you you show up to trial as a prosecutor and you have holes in your evidence, the person you're charging is most likely going to be dismissed just because, there's just certain things lacking in this. And for me, that's the thing. It's like, if I tell you, look, Dimitri, I think I saw this crazy thing. I saw like this 10-foot thing climbing on the side of my girlfriend's building, right? And I saw something fly and land, but it's like I have no video evidence of the creature, the spaceship or whatever flew in, whatever happened to him. I called the police; they can't find nothing.
Well, yeah. Then what you're saying is purely anecdotal. But what was the question you said you were going to ask me?
Oh, that would be my question. Would you believe me if I told you that? Like, even if I had a video, right? And it was, there might be some questionable things you saw in it that might say, oh, that's interesting.
All right. So basically, I cannot tell you, unless I was there, I cannot tell you that you did not see an alien or a UFO. However, it will be very difficult for you to prove that you saw a UFO or an alien beyond your own, anecdote of seeing one. You feel what I'm saying? So you can't actually, you'd be foolish to try to prove that if you don't have any sort of substantial evidence to prove such. But these people, they actually have proof that checks out
But
between their own personal footage, the cop that wasn't even there. And then the article said that UFO was seen in other states. And it just happened to land in their backyard with a Ring camera footage that caught the audio of a loud metallic sound that literally is straight out of a sci-fi, film. And I would expect if the UFO were to land somewhere near me, I would assume it would sound something like that.
but
All
and,
backyard.
but you know
Green.
what? And before you finish, let me say, and that's another key part. If something that loud lands, there's going to be some type of impact that you can't just clean that up real quick and dip out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say me and you are on the beach, right? And I threw you down on the beach. You're going to leave a body print. And if something like that landed,
Right, because I'm a solid.
right,
I am a solid. So that's what I'm saying, because you're still looking at it like a plane crashed. We don't know what crashed. We don't know what it was. We don't know what it was made out of. Yeah, it might have made a sound, but we don't know what it was. So of course, yeah, if you throw a rock on the ground, a rock is a solid. So of course it's going to leave a mark, but we don't know what that was. We don't know if you could just stick your hand through it. That's why I said these might be light beings, because as soon as they were walking, towards it is when it started to light up. Literally, that's when it started to light up, and you saw it. That's what I'm saying. So we can't project our understanding of life on beings who are not from where we're from. They don't fit the criteria. So therefore, my understanding of physics and gravity and biology and all of that, none of that applies to them. That is no longer a factor. Because if you were there, nobody will. I'm saying most people, they're not. I mean, there's a lot of people that do believe him, but there's a lot of people that are not going to believe you, because and it's almost one of those things where you gotta be there in order for you to actually understand. Now, because I'm able to put myself in other people's shoes, I can say, well, you know what? If I was there, it would probably most likely play out the way that they did. And because I know that there are other things out there that I have to rock with what they're saying, because it checks out. Like I said, if they didn't have that Ring footage, if they didn't have the body cam footage, if they weren't walking outside with guns, if they didn't have police showing up, if the news didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, then nothing would check out. But everything checks out. It checks out, man.
But you know what? And that's why I mentioned a Slenderman, because everybody thought that was real. That made the news and turned out was fake. I'm not saying, like I said, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that I'm not familiar with. I'm not familiar with, that particular story, because to me, from what it looks like, that's like an urban myth / Bigfoot type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're only purely discussing UFOs and aliens.
But
and based on every single, and I used to love watching UFO freaking footage and stuff like that, because I always found it to be very interesting. But the consistency has always been the same as far as what we know about UFOs, which is these are just borderline intangible lights that don't obey the same like laws of gravity that we do. Even this fighter jet guy that was flying a fighter jet, there was a UFO that flew by him, and you could probably find this. It was going way faster than he was, and it looked like it wasn't, again, like defying the laws of gravity based off of how it was like positioned and how fast it was going in its own like trajectory. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we know aliens are real. I think that they've had the most realistic encounter with aliens. We didn't see much, but I think I've seen enough collectively in order to say, you know what? I believe them.
But
because
then again,
I didn't understand why he only used that little clip. The only reason why he used that little clip is because that's where the alien was, in that red car, or on the other side of that red car. When they got too close, mind you, it's the same thing like with a rabid animal or some shit. You run up on the animal, you get too close, it starts to react and make noises and stuff like that. And then they moved away. It's the same thing. You could almost say it's like if they ran into a wild animal in the back. And when they got too close is when they did something. They had guns. They called the cops. They had a pretty good description. The cop seen it. The cop was the one that was like, yo, I really wouldn't have believed it, but my partner who was down the street had body cam footage of the UFO. He said, like, yo, I wouldn't even have believed this either. If he hadn't confirmed that he himself saw a UFO way in a way different spot than I was. And then they called right after that saying that they had a UFOs, unidentified, I want to say UFOs, aliens in their backyard not long after that. It checks out, brother.
I mean,
checks
don't
out.
get me wrong. I think, but we also live in a society now where, I listen to, I think I told you this, but Tony Ayo, people may know, he's from G Unit rap group. He did a video for Hot Boxing Mike Tyson where AI has digitally made Tupac's voice for popular songs that actually sound like him. Now, I'm not saying they're doing that, but I don't know. It could be edited. People are known to do stuff like that, and me personally, I just don't know. I think we always often hear these stories of people finding UFOs and stuff, right? We're living in a society now where you can't even steal a bag of chips because there's a camera everywhere. So how is a UFO constantly showing up, but nobody's cameras or anything is picking it up? That's the thing that gets me. It's like, how many, like I said, I do think there are life forms out there we don't know about, right? But how many times can extraterrestrial beings come to this planet and not get picked up by the government at this point? It's been so many years of people saying,
well, the government, I believe, has extensive communication with beings not of this world. I firmly believe that. So if anyone's not in the know, it's us that doesn't know anything. But I'm pretty sure the super upper echelon higher ups, they know a whole lot that we don't know. We're the ones that don't know anything. So we can't include the government in the general population. Because I think Donald Trump said that when he was in office. He was like, yo, if I told y'all what I've come to know being the president of the United States as it relates to extraterrestrials and unidentified flying objects and all the other types of stuff, he says your head would spin. Because you have to get in those, positions, government positions to know those things. That's what they call it, privileged information. We're not privileged to know these things. So when we have these sorts of things happen, you got to run with it. You got to run with it. Because if it looked fake, then I would say it looked fake. But everything that happened, come on now. Because you can't be skeptical. That's like people who say, they died and then they saw lights and they saw all of that. But then people will be like, oh, that's not true. Well, how can you dispute that? You weren't there.
I don't know. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that something that big made that loud impact and no neighbor at all had the courage to look out and, I know people tend to mind their business and I get that. But if I lived in a neighborhood like that where it's quiet, it was a bunch of homes and I heard a loud sound like that, I would peek out. It looked like there was like nobody home in that neighborhood at all. And I don't know.
You know what? You know why? Because you're the type of guy and you're part of the group of people that it has to happen to you, and you have to see it to believe it. You have to see it with your own eyes in order to actually believe it, in my opinion. Like, all right, let me ask you something, man. Do you believe that there's a higher force greater than man?
What do you mean higher force?
Like God. Like, do you believe like God and there's higher force?
Yeah.
Because think about how long the earth has been here. Like, think about that. Think about the fact that Black people have been on this earth for 250,000 years. But the earth itself has been here for way longer than that. And that the earth is just a very small part of a greater solar system. And our solar system is a small part of a greater galaxy. And then the galaxy is probably a small part of the multiverse. This is why you see these things. This is why you see these things in films. Like, even to me, when I saw Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I was like, yo, this stuff is most likely real. Like, this is probably not just fiction. it has to come from somewhere. And for everything that I know, just about life and that there's layers to life, because human beings are not like the creators of everything. We're not.
No.
You know what I'm saying? We only make up hundreds of thousands of years on this earth, but this earth has existed way longer than that. And we're just, again, like a small speck in just whatever like life and existence really is. So the notion that there is a parallel, I don't say parallel, but that there are other beings of equal or greater intelligence to us that coexist with us on this earth, that is possible. And that family in Las Vegas, they just had a very close encounter with them, and it's pretty realistic. It's pretty realistic given everything that I just told you. And it would play out like that. He didn't get attacked. The alien didn't roar. He didn't, he didn't pull out any weapons or none of that. He was, or whatever it was just as afraid of us as we were of it. That's it.
But you know what? I actually have another thing too. If aliens come to this earth so much, how are they still scared of us at this point? That's another thing. Like,
who's to say that they are? I mean, all right, there are some people that if aliens were to coexist with us, there are going to be a greater demographic, and I'm probably one of them that would be very leery of aliens. I would be, like I say, what was the movie called? District 9 or something like that? Those crab nasty shrimp looking aliens. If that's what those were, I wouldn't like them. You know what I'm saying? But then there's others that would be more embracing and welcoming of another species. So let's say that those aliens that they came across are just, the ones that are a bit leery of humans. We don't know. That was the closest that we got. And I'm pretty sure something like this will probably happen again in the future in terms of what we have access to. But I know for a fact the government is way ahead in terms of tech. Like I think you said that earlier. The government is way ahead of technology, and we just get what they just decide to give us. The fact that we're still using fossil fuels as a means of transportation and trade and stuff like that is really way behind where I think we should be in 2023 right now. They have access to crazy stuff that they just decide to give us in specs and stuff. Like I think they had like AI and stuff. You don't think that they've been had AI? We're just now getting it. We're just now getting artificial intelligence where we can manipulate voice and images and other types of things. They've been had that stuff. I think there was this other thing that they had. I forgot what it was that like the military been using, and then we just got it, like I would say like within the last 10 years, but they already had like, earlier versions of that shit in the 90s and the 80s. So that's what I'm saying. Right. People listening, watch a documentary called Above Majestic, and it talks about extraterrestrials and things like that. But that's all I'm saying. So we have to recognize that it's layers to life, and you have to open up your understanding to the realization that there are other beings out there, and they had contact with them. It might not have been realistic. You might want to know, well, what happened? Where did the ship go? Given what they are, probably just vanish into thin air. They don't have to do it. They don't have to do anything. It's probably not going to be exactly like it was in the movies, but shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I was talking about this before. I mean, look at iRobot, Terminator 2, right? We always thought, iRobot, well, Will Smith was a prime example of something we never thought would happen. But look at us now. We have AI. There's certain restaurants that have machines. Technology has advanced. Yeah, and it's here. Which is why I'm not saying, that's why I believe there are life forces out there that we haven't explored. And my thing is, every time we hear about an alien, right, it's usually, again, we don't know what these creatures look like. They could have similar traits to us. They could be way different. We don't know what they look like, but this whole notion that they're just this green ET looking thing with, green skin and big black eye. How can we say that we've actually never seen them, that they look like that? We don't know what these creatures look like.
But they saw it. They saw it with their own eyes, meaning the best definition that you can see something is with your own two eyes in real life, not on the cameras. Because the cameras to me, like I couldn't even fathom, walking into, my backyard and then on the other side of my car, there's a freaking alien that is staring at me. And then when I got closer to it, its eyes got bigger. Of course I'm gonna back up unless I'm ready to die or some shit, because I don't know what it can do. That's what they did. I'm like, yo, because that's what I would have done. And then a lot of people said in the comments, like, yo, when you look at their body language and stuff like that, it seemed pretty genuine. At first, I was like, well, why? As soon as the camera, cut on, that's when he ran. But then it was part of a longer video. Then I had to see that, and I'm like, all right, okay, so what am I looking for now? What am I supposed to be looking at? I see the forklifts are imbued with a green light. Well, that looked a lot like the UFO that landed. And then they said, oh, that's where the alien was, because that's where they were walking towards, because that's probably where it was, where they left it. Because this whole situation was a whole thing. They only recorded just a certain part, but we didn't see that whole situation from beginning to end. Because I'm pretty sure if we saw the whole entire thing, you would believe it too. If you saw everything from beginning to end, like let's say if they had the camera, like they cut the camera on from the very beginning to the time the cops left, and we got to see like a whole 45, 50-minute video, you would believe it. You would. If it was me, I would have done something like that. I would have had my camera on. I would have had both my phones and my DSLR camera. So when the DSLR, dies, I got my iPhone. Then I got my other iPhone. So then if that was me, I would have had a whole hour-long video that I would have uploaded for everybody to watch. It wouldn't be no part 1, no part 2, no edits, just everything. Unedited, raw, uncut. That's where his mistake was at, because then that's when you open it up for the skeptics to say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And then now that you see more of the footage, then you see why they were so scared. Because if you run into an ET, you're probably gonna get scared too, bro. Probably gonna get scared too.
But I will also say I ran to a fox. This was like months ago, but when I was in LA, I saw a fox for the first time hiding in the bushes. I was scared of shit and I ran. I'm not saying that fear wasn't genuine. So it could have been a bear. It could have been a wolf.
That's what I'm saying. You saw a fox, which is very small. You've never seen it before. You ran away. Now, needless to say, about something that when you first saw it, it was standing before it knew you were there. Before it knew you were watching it, it was standing 8 to 10 feet tall. Before it knew you was there. And then when you went to go investigate, and when it was now aware of you, it changed. It crouched down. It did whatever it did, to adjust to a situation, to the situation, just like you adjusted to it. Where they went back, they got the cameras, they got the guns, they got everything. And mind you, there was a whole second one that we didn't even see. The only one that I saw was the first one.
Hold on, let me clarify this, because I don't want people to think I'm a softie. Now, when I said I ran, I didn't run and just run to how. No, what I did was I was like, I was in the middle of the street, so I just ran up my stairs, because my stairs were like a couple feet. So I just ran up and watched it. Right. My thing, like you said, here's the issue when we're talking about stuff like this, right? If you want people to believe what you saw, you want to have a cohesive, amount of footage. We live in a society, people record the most ridiculous, people record food.
I agree.
So, and I think that's why people are skeptical, because when you keep cutting up footage, it's like it's different. But imagine you had a trial and the prosecutor's trying to convict you for murder, but every time they show you evidence, it's broken up. They take a video, but they splice it 10 seconds and then jump to 5 minutes later to show that you did it. You're gonna be like, well, this looks a little funny. Like if you have him on camera doing this, why are you cutting up?
But it's because most people they don't have the same type of mentality that we got. Especially me personally, that's what I would have done. I would have had a long ass video for people to watch. It would have been 45. It would have been 35 minutes plus. Everything. Especially if I know what I saw and I decided to share it with the general public, just so people can't tell me that I'm crazy. There's going to be no stone left unturned as far as whatever materials that I've got to prove what my experience was. These are people that, especially this Latino kid, he's a kid. So he's thinking, oh, okay, let me call my YouTube channel Alien Society 51 and let me get an alien logo, because he's not a content creator. So everything that he's probably ever going to do on YouTube is going to be related to everything that happened on May 1st that night. He doesn't have the same type of mentality that I have. But that whole thing doesn't get more cohesive than that. Because stuff, if it's not viable, it's not going to get to the news. You feel what I'm saying? Like all of these UFO sightings and stuff like that you can find on YouTube, the lesser percentage of them actually get on the news. It's only when you have multiple people that can substantiate those claims is when it actually makes it to mainstream news. That happened in Las Vegas. Freaking the article that I read was from San Antonio. So it doesn't get more cohesive than that, because they're not going to take something that is probably, faker than fake, and then they're going to put it on the news just because. No, they put it on the news because these newscasters were like, hey, this seems pretty, believable to us, and then they, made a whole news segment about it. So that's what I'm saying. We really need to really open ourselves up to what's really out there, because people are going to want to wait until like some gigantic, spaceship appears in the middle of freaking, Manhattan or freaking California, something like that, for people to be like, oh, aliens actually exist. It's like, one, I've been knew. The only thing is, what's the protocol once it's actually set in stone, confirmed, that we could actually see these beings for what they actually are?
But it's like it's one of those things. As humans, we only believe stuff that we see now. I agree with you. I think people need to open up to the idea that there are things we don't know about. Like I said, the ocean is one of the most unexplored parts of the world on Earth that we haven't really began to dig and find out was
because biologically we can't get down there, and the water pressure is crazy to the point where like you're gonna die before you actually get to the good part, whatever's actually down there. We don't know, but that's just a testament to how long the Earth has actually been here,
right?
And how long we've been here relative to the Earth.
And I think as technology gets better, and it's only getting better, I give it 10 years from now, Tesla is going to be the new thing. I think gas cars is starting to, even cars now, a lot of car models are hybrid or electric now. I give it 5-10 years from now, we're going to be society is going to be in a different place, and we're going to have technology. I was watching a video, a doctor was talking about how they have machines now that can help in the operating room. So, there's things out there, technology is evolving. We will get to the bottom of exploring some of these things. But I was listening to I was watching a video. The scientist was talking about it. He just got back from living in space for 6 months, and he was talking about how, I think one of the questions was, if I can find a video, I'll send it to you. But he was talking about space because someone was asking about the possibility of meeting other extraterrestrial lives, and he was saying that he does believe this other life force out there. The thing with us, and why it's so hard for us to believe that we encounter it, is based off our own experience with traveling through space. Space is a very dangerous. Our concept of space, we think is some glamorous. You float in you just float, and
space is a scary place, man.
It's a scary place.
Space is a scary place.
He was saying that like them living in space, they can hear the sun explode. Now, for them, they can hear it because they're in space. But the way how travel and light doesn't really travel in space, we can't hear the sun. But he was saying that the sun explodes so violently that you would think that you're about to die. Like, it's one of those things we can't comprehend because we've never been there. Right. So, like I said, there are things going on with that we aren't aware of. I think for me, I would just need a little. If I can see actual, like I said, we live in a society where you can't even sneeze in public on, you can't steal a bag of chips no more. You can't commit a murder and get away with it. This camera's everywhere. Right. And I think if I just saw a clear visual of an aircraft, someone had actual evidence of something happening, I would 100% believe. But I just see, based off the past track record of these type of videos. Now, I think his video is a lot more convincing than anything else we've seen, but it's usually split up clips, split up videos and stuff of people saying he saw this stuff. But again, people will record, them, vlogging food for 30 minutes. But when it comes to this stuff, I get it. They scared. But I also look at it like they saw it. They ran, they closed the door. Just the father or whatever was hunching, had his back turned to the fence. If I saw a 10-foot being and I jumped and I ran, I wouldn't turn my back to that area. You know, I would keep my eyes there.
Well, they opened the gate back open again, so the woman that was recording, she could, I guess, get more of, I guess, the situation, waiting for something, to happen, which is where we saw that, green, aura, overglow, if you want to call it. I also want to say this before we wrap up, though. See, I just Googled this. Now, this is given or granted if the Earth is not this water tank or something, like basically this crazy theory that I saw. Like, I don't know if you ever seen this episode of The Simpsons. I think it was either Simpsons or The Family Guy, and it was like a baseball game, and then the dude hits a home run, and it goes into the sky, and the baseball cracks the sky, and then water freaking floats in. Now that's given if that's actually not true, because I've never been to space to be able to confirm if space actually exists. But according to regular information, it says, I Googled how old is the Earth. Now, according to the American Museum of Natural History, the Earth is 4.5 billion or 4.5 billion years old. We've only been on this Earth for 250,000 years. So that should just give you a grand scale of like life that we're living. And the average layman has no idea of like what's really out there and what this Earth really consists of in its actual history. 4.5 billion years. See what I'm saying? Like, if dinosaurs really existed, that was like a whole separate timeline era that this Earth of this Earth's history. And then what was going on before that? You feel me?
Right.
So we really gotta, get past like our perceptions of reality and really look at the Earth, and not even just the Earth, but everything that's out there. Again, I've never been out to space to be able to confirm that. I don't know. I've never been there. There are some conspiracy theories that say that, the first man on the moon, that was fake and that was CGI. You never know. I can't confirm that. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Please be sure, again, to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.